Alright, just testing this out. Everything working? Alright. Everything should be set up now. Alright. Might as well just let this music finish before we actually start proper. So yeah, welcome to the stream. This is gonna be a lot more chill than the other ones. We're not gonna be really focusing on the change of the channel stuff that much. This is just more of a sort of relaxation stream. Hi, Pump Action Musket and David Silva. We're mostly going to be talking stuff about the channel, what's going to be happening coming up, how the change the channel stuff has affected it, what we're going to be doing from here, and mostly just asking you guys, what do you want to see from this? Mostly because I didn't expect a lot of the stuff that happened over the past few streams, but we'll get to that soon. All right. Now that we're ready to go, we're gonna just wait for a few more people to get in here, and then we'll just talk what's gonna be happening. Let me just refresh the page a bit. Let me also just get the live chat up for a bit. Just gonna close out of the music tab. I see your question. Just give me 1 second. And all right. So this stream's going to be a little different from the other streams, as I mentioned. There isn't going to be any talk of the hashtag change the channel movement or anything with Channel Awesome. I think I'm going to leave that for the next stream, considering, you know, we're going to have to go through more of the change the channel not so awesome document because it's filling up. I can give a little update on stuff that's been happening since then, just at the start of the stream. Then I'll get into the real reason why this stream is happening and why it's called the Where Do We Go From Here edition. So, just in case you aren't aware, the change the channel stuff, or aren't caught up to date with it, Doug Walker, aka the Nostalgia Critic, released his review of Woody Woodpecker, the movie. The comment section and the video reception did not go so well. He's lost over 10,000 subscribers as of just, you know, talking about this. And, you know, it's not good. There's been mass deletion, in fact, of a lot of the comments. And it's just not a good... he's just not in a good spot right now. But that's actually pretty much it for the change the channel stuff. Other than that, not much has come out recently. So this one's going to be a very chill stream. So we're not going to stay up until 2 in the morning again. No, we are not. Yeah, that was a special case because that document was long. Like if you watched Down the Rabbit Hole stream, his was like a bit shorter, but he also went through the entire document like I did, and it was just almost as long, if not even longer. I do like the specialized logo. Where do we go from here? Logo made just for the stream. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I kind of just made this logo up to today. That's why it's not all fancy. I also just made the starting soon banner beforehand. I'm probably gonna add on to that because I might do more streams. I actually have been really liking the streams, but I also want to go back to more edited and free form content, and that's what the stream is about today. What did I make it in? I made all of my stuff in Photoshop, using like a stock blue background, the paintbrush tool, and that font down below is actually a special font called Homestuck Extended, which is being used for another project that I'm actually working on in tandem with the YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know, or do not follow me in like other, realms of where I am, I'm actually working on a webcomic right now that's pseudo. It's kind of it's a Homestuck comic, for lack of a better term. It's sort of just something I came up with. I have a team of around 9 other people working on it. Um, because I was like really into Homestuck, and so are they. They're really nice people. Uh, and the webcomic's called Metastuck. It's it's pretty much just giving the audience a chance to rewrite the entire comic, which is hard considering it's 8,000 pages or so. But we were trying to work on that. But yeah, you don't want to hear about that. You want to hear about the channel or about some other stuff. This stream is gonna actually be really chill, and it's actually gonna be more chat oriented because I'm sort of dancing around the point here. Over the past week or so, my channel has blown up exponentially, like both figuratively and literally. Um, when I first started, before the change the channel movement came around, I had around, I want to say 30 subscribers, and the highest rated video on my thing ever was probably one of the Homestuck videos, that I just did out of, because I really wanted to. I put a lot of work into the Everything Wrong with parody thing that I did, mostly because that was based off of a Reddit post that I made, and I figured, let's just have some fun with that. And then the change the channel thing came and just blew up the entire channel, and now there's almost 300 people. It's nearly 10 times the amount of people that I originally had starting out. And I can't thank you enough. But that begs the question now, because the change the channel movement can't last forever, and I mentioned this way late into the other stream. It's basically, what do you guys want to see for content? Because before this, it was a lot more freeform. Like, I did shit posting here and there, like with the Celebrate video for the Smash Brothers thing, which I actually, I like that video, but I also like my other videos, like the Homestuck ones. But I mean, I had passion behind them. I had a reason for doing them. But after Change the Channel, I have ideas, but I'm not sure, like, they will sustain the people that because I'm not, like, oblivious or anything. I'm just going to be honest with you all. A lot of you did come here for Change the Channel, and I can understand if a lot of you just, disperse after that. I'm fine with that. I'm also sorry I'm not reading chat. I just have to, get this thoughts out real quick. So I want to know what you guys want to see, because people wanted me to become more of a topical / news / research channel, based off of the Change the Channel topic and how well that went. But here's the thing. I don't know if Change the Channel was just because of an anomaly, because I was a part of that background March 15th and just happened to jump on it at just the right time before anyone else did, or if it was actually because people enjoyed what I made and people wanted to see what was happening with it. And I'm going to assume it was probably the former. Just, yeah. Well, hey, some say 8,000 pages is an impossibility. Others consider it a challenge. Well, yeah, Hussey definitely considered it a challenge. Well, here's the thing: Homestuck's not actually officially over. Just going off on a tangent. He still has to write the epilogue. They're working on Hive Swap right now, and that's a whole mess. They're working on the books with Viz Media, who are translating the entire comic into all the acts into condensed versions, just like actual print versions to be sold on shelves. Fred Nansen kept chat interaction to a medium, which is why it was much shorter. Well, yeah, that, and also, also because his chat was kind of a mess. It sort of became very like bigoted. It became very just kind of all over the place. It was toxic. Other people were screeching it wasn't toxic, only further adding to the toxicity. It was not good. I mean, I can understand why there were so many people there, um, but and I can understand why the chat was so crazy. But even still, it was just I wouldn't want to read his chat either. He very rarely did it. 12,000 viewers will do that. Well, yeah, well, um, you have to do a lot of research on the channels you want to join. Yeah, you do. Again, the change the channel movement. Yeah, you really have to know like which channels you want to do. That's why I would never sign up for a multi-channel network. I want this channel. My one goal for this channel that I do have laid out right now is to keep it completely independent. Because I want to try and do this on my own, even if it like, because right now with this channel I don't make a cent off of any of my videos. People have been saying that. Here's the thing: I don't have like the requirements to get monetization, and I wouldn't do these for monetization anyway. I wouldn't do that for donations. I've never done anything really for the money. Most people in my life or anywhere on like anywhere I've been on the internet could tell you that. I have a very brash personality at points, but I've never done anything solely to think like I'd gain a benefit out of it. I like your personality. Yeah, I gotten that sentiment. Um, but yeah, that's the other thing. I stumble on my words a lot. I mean, others like it, others kind of hate it, which, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I hate the sound of my own voice. Like some, okay, funny story. Some guy named Ultimos, commented earlier on my YouTube thing. If you want to hear like a voice that's much better than mine and has like such like powerful range, really check out his channel. He deserves a lot more than even I gave him credit for, because I thought he was just shitting on me, and I'm like, okay, let's see his voice. And I'm like, oh, his voice is actually really good, and it's actually well produced than even my stuff. I think you need 1,000 subs in order to qualify for AdSense. That is correct. The new requirement is that you need to have 4,000 hours watch time and 1,000 subs, which, granted, the change the channel thing, again, completely blew up my channel. It is my most watched video to date at 40,000 views. That is insane. And the fact that a lot of you mostly watch to the end is even more insane. Because I never thought that would happen. I never thought that I would be able to do live streams on this channel. I never thought that like anyone would even care about this channel. Granted, they probably don't. They probably more care about the change of the channel thing. But just the fact that, people came here in the first place of all places, and it has had that huge of like a contribution to the entire thing over the past like 2 weeks or so is mind-blowing. Never in my life did I ever think I would achieve that. And I'll tell you this, it definitely boosted up like the watch time. You seem like a nice dude. Yeah, I get that a lot. If you get on my bad side, I'm like kind of... Here's the thing, I try to be nice with everyone, but like if you push my buttons or just like... I have this tendency to like lash out whenever you say like, even if I just like say the wrong thing, I just sort of like, it's like flicks a switch and I just have to like, come back at you with something. Not in like a angered or mean way, just sort of like, I kind of should probably tell that. It's, yeah. Um, I would try out doing video essays. You know, I've been heavily considering, I'm not gonna lie. One of the biggest ones on YouTube that I can think of right now that actually I've wanted to take inspiration from doing the video essays for would be Nikki Jake, who did the. If you don't know him, you might know him for the change in valve video that he did a while back. And considering how big video essays and like story YouTubers like the Odd Ones Out and Jaden Animations have been doing, um, like even though I just love their content as a consumer, I've kind of gotten the sense that this is sort of where it's going. But my issue is that I don't want to follow trends, so to speak. I want it to still be my own thing, my own video, like just my own style, but I don't want it to just solely be because I'm piggybacking off of something else. Like I could make a video right now talking about how bullshit the guided missiles are now in Fortnite, because Fortnite's really big right now and I know they get me a lot of views, but I would assume so, at least. But I don't want to do that because I know that's not going to make for like quality content that'll last, if you get what I mean. I mean, I could try and make my personality keep up with that, but a lot of the YouTubers I like and still remember, um, were able to hold it together just because of their personality, not because of the content that they played. Nobody watched like Angry Video Game Nerd, or if you want to get topical, Doug Walker, because of the shitty movies they did. Or the shitty movies they reviewed, or the shitty games they played. Those were like a base outline of their content. People came because of their personality, because of the jokes they made. And yeah. And that's really what I kind of want to see what my. That's also why I made this stream. I want to ask you guys right now, like, what do you want to see? Because really, this is all dependent on you. I can make content just to make it. I can just continue doing that. I could continue like doing podcast. I've had ideas for animations I've wanted to do now that I think my style has sort of evolved a bit, and try and see where I'm at right now. But I also know animation is absolutely just like abysmal on YouTube right now. That at least like 24 FPS, like animation that you'd see on Newgrounds kind of animation. Like that, well, early Newgrounds, like more higher quality animation, rather than, animation you'd see with like the Odd Ones Out, which only uses like 2 or 3 frames per second. 40,000 views on a single vid is like a statement to you, and how calm and collected you were on the whole 7 hours of your vid, and how civil you kept the stream chat. Yeah, well, first off, I didn't expect to go 7 hours. And second of all, is that I know, like, I'm well aware, I'm very cognizant, for several reasons of, the audience here. I know, like, that sometimes people will get rowdy and they're just gonna, like, shit on you to shit on you, and I got that. I've watched the YouTube landscape play out for nearly 6 years now, I think, at this point. And I have enough experience to know that, and, you just gotta let it roll over you. And, not let that distract from the rest of the chat. There's always gonna be those types of people. It's just an inevitability. Hell, there were some that, showed up on my, Change the Channel video. But, it's just a thing you gotta watch out for. Alright. I'm gonna read the chat. I love Nikki Jake. He's actually pretty original. Yeah, that's the weird thing. Like, it's video essays, but it comes from a more emotional standpoint, if that makes sense. He doesn't try and hide it in fact. He just says it like it is from his perspective, and he like takes it into his own. Like, he makes it different from his other content. Like, he could just do some, he could talk about how this game works, or how game titles work emotionally to the player and how they invested, while also playing like a pan flute at the same time, or just sitting on like a one of those exercise balls, or like him laying in bed telling how Dark Souls saved his life. That's like that personal connection that you get with that, that really made me, really consider that, because I don't want to make like, I've wanted to also do reviews, but I also wanted to make reviews, um, or some media like that I can express my opinion, but not in a way that I wanted to come off as fact, or that any of you should see as fact. I wanted to, come off as like, just my own personal experience with that, and let other people, share their experiences, because really that's what I love about YouTube, and especially the comments, even though, some of them are, the YouTube comments are usually a cesspool, but I think the host kind of breed that toxicity. Whereas if you go to like a YouTuber like Jacksepticeye's comment section, or like a really big YouTuber that's sort of like facilitated that, they're usually really nice and really civil, and that's what I want to get out of mine. Like, is that you can make it a good place. You just have to treat the viewers like people. You have to treat them, um, as if you like would any other person, which would be kind of hard if you have a big following, but you can do it. And my favorite part about that is watching the discussion, seeing what you guys have to say, because I can say something, I could talk about a game and just how shit it is all I want, but that means nothing if you just come just to also say how shit it is. Maybe you want to defend it, maybe you want to argue against it. I'd be all for it. If you make a cohesive argument for it, I may be inclined to agree. Maybe you change my opinion. I don't know. Honestly, I kind of like the idea of SwizzlyBubbles, the daily live stream guy. I'm not gonna lie. I really like these live streams. Um, but I do want to. I might do frequent live streams, but I don't know if I do them on YouTube per se. I might do them more on Twitch. And I'm also just gonna tell you right now, this is like, this live stream alone is it's not going to be like a popular one. I just do these because I, want to. Um like, these made nothing in comparison to like the change the channel stuff, and for good reason. Uh that is the way people should do it, right? Like, yeah. Hang on. Okay, I don't know why it's doing that. You're always gonna get a few dicks in the comments section, just gotta accept that. However, as long as they make up a small percentage, you'll be fine. Exactly. Like, what's a good example? I mean, I guess GameGrumps could be a good example. That's the one I have the most experience, like, looking through. Is that, and keep in mind, I have my own, personal beef against GameGrumps and some of the more corporate decisions they made, just putting it out there. I would never work with Grumps. I used to really like their content and still like look back on it. It's just some of the stuff now has kind of, really just got under my skin, and I let that get the best of me in cases. I let it go overboard in cases, but I also can see from like a omniscient perspective just how bad the fandom is because of some of the stuff. Like, for example, take the Majora's Mask playthrough of GameGrumps. By the way, if you're watching the live stream right now and you're wondering, well, what the hell is he talking about? This is just sort of an everything live stream. We're just sort of shooting the shit, just talking, discussing topics, just sort of around like a centralized thing. But yeah, like, Aaron has been kind of goading in his Majora's Mask playthrough. Like, just how much he plays up this like bit for the audience of how much he hates the game, but then he also says he lies about it, and then he doesn't, and then it like breeds this hostile atmosphere where you like, don't give a shit about the fans, and whenever they try to help you, you only want to make things worse just because you like seeing people get riled up about it, which I don't personally get. I think that's a horrible thing, and even if it is for the sake of a joke, I don't think that's good on like your audience part. Even if your audience is complete shit and bonkers, like the GameGrumps fan base is, that doesn't mean you should facilitate that just for your own humor. But yeah, that's an example of like a toxic comment section bred by the toxicity or goading of a YouTuber. Like, if I ever do that, please feel free to like smack me upside the head. Feel free to like come up to me wherever I am on social media and just tell me how much of it like a whiny bitch I'm being. Please. You're always going to. Oh, I already read that. I would recommend checking out Houston Productions one. You kind of remind me of him. I actually have not heard of him, but now you've got me curious, so I might check him out. Um, let's see. If YouTube is the big urban city of the internet, with several communities being their own districts, then Channel Awesome is the decaying ghost town that was once thriving. Well, here's the interesting thing about that. Channel Awesome wanted to get away from YouTube. They were just sort of like, okay, if we're going with the city metaphor, you got the city, you got the suburbs, and then you got like the outlands, like just random outskirts that are interspersed everywhere. And like Channel Awesome would be like that town that was filtering from like that was getting like all of their important stuff, like their water, their food, or whatever, from some like other random offshoot of the same city, so like a smaller city. But then that city, crumbled, their infrastructure just completely collapsed, and then they followed suit. So now, all of the people that lived in said town are migrating to the bigger city for better opportunities. That actually makes that analogy make a lot more sense. Like, it hurts how true that is. This reminds me of when Matt and Pat played through The Walking Dead Season 2 and wouldn't stop shitting on Kenny. Yeah, Super Best Friends play. I think that's who you're referencing anyway. Um, yeah, they. But see, here's the thing. They don't do that all the time, or when they do, it's not like directed at the audience or directly at people who try to help. It's mostly from like conversation that popped up. In that one, they just like really hated Kenny, in all honesty, and how he was portrayed in season 2. But I don't think they had this specific intent of trying to make their audience angry at them or just be completely toxic towards them. I'm a YouTube vagrant, just all over the place. Yeah, it like I again, my content was kind of just sort of do whatever. I was really into Homestuck at one time. I was in the Metastuck group I mentioned earlier. They said my normal voice, sounded a lot like what they thought John Egbert's would. John Egbert is like the main character of Homestuck. He's like the person you see like on the first page of the comic. He's like if you know Homestuck, you'll instantly recognize at least who that is, even if you only know it just by, just the base level. You'll know who he is. You improved on my city metaphor. Well, I never finished what I was saying. I'm an idiot. Yeah, and I did that, and then that video was received relatively well. That was like my highest view video for a time. I just decided to do voice things as John. And then I decided to do one as Carcat, got significantly less views. Then I did one as Jake English from later on in the comic. And understandably, yeah, they got less and less as they went along. You proved to my city metaphor. Well done. Thank you, Classic Luigi fan, for making said metaphor in the first place. Channel Awesome is more like on one of those blink and you'll miss it one-horse towns that you pass through in the interstate. That too. It's like a combination of like that and the aforementioned like ghost town metaphor, because the ghost town is what it is now. And yeah. That would have been what it was back then. Where does YouTube go from here? Getting better security at the headquarters. Yeah, that would be a good start. Like, don't get me wrong, I may be silent on my YouTube channel, but I do know and am very aware of a lot of the recent goings on. Like, I could talk about the stuff with John Kay or Dan Schneider that was going around. I could talk about the Spyro Reignited trilogy, like, and how really excited I am for that, because I played the Crash Bandicoot trilogy nonstop. And that was coming from someone who never played Crash and only just, like, saw it. Actually playing the Insane trilogy was so much fun, and I've never, like, ever in my life played a Spyro game. Like, I have, like, little to no idea what the series actually entails, and now knowing that after all this time and all this, like, rumor and build-up that it's actually coming out, and coming out this year no less, is really, it just, I love it, and I want it. Like, I want to play it now. And, like, I could also talk about, yeah, the YouTube shooting that happened. But, you know, like, I don't know what would fit this channel, because this channel is, like, so young. Like, even though, the channel itself has been around since, God, 2013 was when the SwizzlyBubbles channel, like, first popped up, because I had to use it for, like, schoolwork, and I never really officially put anything on it or commented on it till, like a year later. But this channel itself has only just started, like, earlier this year, and yet it's already gotten, like, this much traction, which, like, shocked me, again, beyond belief. Hey, watched your streams on Change the Channel and decided to check out your other stuff. Figured this stream was a good place to start when I saw it pop up in my notifications. Well, welcome, Jennasmith. Yeah, this is, like, completely different from the other Change the Channel stuff. This is just us, you know, talking for however long we decide to go. It's the weekend. Yeah. Jesus, Spyro the Dragon. I remember playing a demo of the original game on one of those multi-demo discs back on the PS1. Oh god, what was it? Didn't Ratchet and Clank have, like, a Spyro demo on it? Or am I thinking of something else? No, they didn't have Spyro on it. Even though they were both made by Insomniac. Did they? Or was that, like, a demo for Jak 2? God, now I can't remember. But I do know there was, like, a multi-demo disc, like, way back, because, fun fact, Naughty Dog and Insomniac actually worked in the same studio for the longest time before, like, they still did, up until, like, Jak and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank, until the end of those series, they always made little appearances in their other games because they were in the same studio, and I think it was, like, around Uncharted, and then when they started, Insomniac started working on, the Infamous series, they sort of just split off into their own separate things. It was Jak, okay. Is JonTron still making content? Yeah, he is. His schedule is just, like, even barring all the political stuff that happened to him, his schedule is just always random. He just uploads whenever he uploads. It's worked for him. It makes him, like, millions of views. It gets people hyped up for it. Okay, I'm hearing, where was it? From T-Scream80. I know the Channel Awesome topic is starting to be played out. I wouldn't say that. I definitely say it's, like, starting to, you know, not get as much well, no, I can't even say that, because the response in the Nostalgia Critic video and the fact that, yeah, Stuckman and Horror Guru left. Two people who I never thought would leave, especially Stuckman, because they just did the crossovers with the NC for Rogue One and, the Force... Was it the Force Awakens? No, it wasn't, was it? No, it was, like, I think they did one for The Last Jedi. I don't remember if he was around or if they ever did a Force Awakens one, but they did do Rogue One. I do remember him being there for two of those. Those I did not expect. In fact, I'm going to check and see on the website right now if they actually got rid of them. Horror Guru is still on there, but yeah, I'm not seeing Stuckman. Wow. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not getting played out because so many other people are living. I think it's going to get played out by the time, like, every major person leaves, except for our Lord and Savior, praise be, Blockbuster Buster. If you all of you don't know what that is, that's a joke from one of the first the first live stream that we did on the Channel Awesome live reading. And at the very end of the stream, we were just doing like calling random YouTubers basically gods, like responsible for all of the good things in the universe. The bad, like it was stupid, but it was a lot of fun. The Channel Awesome producers are like battered spouses who find what they think are the ideal partner, but they turn out to be even worse and end up portraying their first partner in the end. Yeah, I've heard accounts of it being an abusive relationship, and especially with like the sexual assault stuff that's come out, it ain't good. The most I could see Channel Awesome still surviving at this rate with so many people leaving is if it just becomes Nostalgia Critic the site, or if it just becomes the Nostalgia Critic stuff, because at least then they'll have some idea of where to go from there. Because that like significant producer, like we're trying to help like all our insignificant and significant producers alike. We're sorry you felt that way. That whole non-apology bullshit, that wasn't flying. Especially even for like Tony Goldmark, who Swade said, I don't want to make this a change the channel live stream, but it's happening because I just found out about this. Was that like Tony Goldmark, even though he was like a diehard defender of Channel Awesome, is just saying like, no, I can't do this. Also, last stream someone brought up the allegations of Tony Goldmark, and he actually did go into more detail on Twitter about the account on there about like Tony Goldmark like mistreating and sexually harassing her. And he actually showed screenshots, and those allegations in the fan document were proved to be false, and her thing was deleted shortly after, or shortly before. They also dropped to below 1,063,000. They actually lost 50 subs today? Huh. Stuckman's down, Hurguro's still on, but the latter has stated on his Twitter that he's resigned. Okay. The apology is more like a slap in the face. Yeah, it was. It really was. My first feeling about it all is feeling sad and disappointed. Yeah. Again, I can't really add to what's been said. At this point, it's just such a complete and utter like catastrophe. The channel's basically imploded on itself, and it kind of just feels like too little, too late. If you want me to recommend another thing to do that's like a more cohesive thing than my own video, like please watch Quentin Review's Fallen Titans thing. He just uploaded it today. I'm a massive fan of Quentin Reviews normally. I've seen like the Scary Godmother reviews he did, the Nickelodeon live action movies of it was the Fairly Odd live action movies. And recently he was doing a series on like the Fallen Titans that I was keeping up with like Fred, Ray William Johnson, who we mentioned last stream. The Annoying Orange, how he's like actually surprised the Annoying Orange is kind of, still around and still actually is making some kind of, distinct profit on his videos. Like it's just sort of stagnated, but it's just kept that way and they've just sort of rolled with it. And recently he did one on the Change the Channel Awesome controversy. Just like a lot of people. Hell, even Pie Guy Rules, the person who I also mentioned last stream, when he did his video, he literally just said on Twitter today, it's becoming like his most viewed video ever in the history of his channel. And like he's only like a 50,000 something subscribed YouTube channel, so that's saying a lot. I once wanted to be a content creator. After all the bullshit that's happened, I don't think it's worth it. Okay, well, no, if you want to be a content creator and want to make your own content out of your own passion, I say go for it. But just be wary. Be a content creator, but never, ever trust networks that want to partner with you. Don't even try to do that. You're much better off just doing your own thing and making your own path for yourself. That's how so many, like, lasting creators like Chugga Conroy, like Proton John. They've like any independent creator that you think of that hasn't, been taken over by a studio has still kept its integrity throughout a lot of the years. Even one that played a massive part of me wanting to be a content creator, Koopa Kung Fu, who sadly, doesn't get as much, recognition or noticeability in the community as he once did. Like he still continues to do those videos solely because he wants to keep doing those videos. It's not because like any entity is telling him to. He's never really gone corporate, and they've just stayed that way, and they've been long lasting, at least to me. And yeah, it helps to like have your own content that you want to do first. That's why I'll give you a perfect example. Ross Scott, who originally paired with Machinima to do the Freeman's Mind series. And then shortly afterwards, Machinima started to have all that contract bullshit that happened, all those NDAs, all of that happened to him. So then he left. He then went to Channel Awesome for a very short time before he was quickly booted out along with Guru Larry. Which, yeah, even Frederick Nuts, I'm just going to call him the down the rabbit hole guy. Even he was surprised that they were on the site. I was surprised that they were on the site. I remember the Cursed Farm showing up there once. Maybe twice, and then never again. And now that he's, independent and just working on his own stuff because he wants to, Freeman's Mind 2 was able to get in a shit ton of viewers, even though nobody had heard of or remembered that series for years. Like, literal years. He kept doing stuff like Ross's Game Dungeon, just completely on his own, free from any corporate bullshit, and he's been much better off for it. That is a perfect example of why you would never want to stick with a multi-channel network. I'm just reading through the comments again. I'm sorry, I've missed a lot. Like it's just like you guys are like talking so much. I appreciate it. It's just I have to catch up on it because I talk a lot. I ramble. That's just known about me. If you've known me for a long time, you know how much I ramble and how much of a problem that is, but it makes for better, discussion on live streams. Actually need a drink for a second. Hey Swizzly. Hey Bryston. I actually remember you from one of the earlier live streams. Welcome back. Makes me glad I'm not filming shows on YouTube too much drama, potential for controversy. Well, again, that's only if you want to follow it. I mean, I know drama's hot and it can sell, and like this channel is just living proof of that. But the change this channel stuff wasn't solely. I didn't solely make that because of the drama. I made that because I wanted to talk about a channel that I had vested interest in for close to 6 to 7 years, I want to say. It's hard remembering these things because there was like a time when like I just found out a bunch of these in the row. If you want me to like tell you who like the absolute two biggest people to introduce me to YouTube and the huge YouTube landscape were back in around 2010 or 2011 with Koopa Kung Fu, I mentioned earlier, and Electric Dragon 505, otherwise known as Animat, who did Animation Look Back. And ever since then, like Electric Dragon 505 branched off to me watching Nostalgia Critic. Koopa Kung Fu branched me off into seeing Chugga Conroy. Then Chugga Conroy branched off me and seeing Proton John. Then Proton John branched off to... Or no, Koopa Kung Fu also branched off to me seeing Red Falcon Games. Red Falcon Games branched me off into seeing Tom Fox. And then Chugga Conroy branched off to the Runaway Guys as well as Tom Fox. It's like this huge, interconnected, interwoven, like... Just from those two YouTubers, it branched off into my entire subscriber list as of right now. To the point where nowadays I watch and am subscribed to like people like Alpha Omega Sin or The Odd Ones Out or so many just random offshoot YouTubers to keep a consistent variety of content there. Parental floss allegations, not too sure about. I still don't know if those are true. That's why I said keep those as allegations. I don't know. Like, you don't want to just trust them right out the gate, but, keep in mind that even at 1,000,000 subs, there's no guarantee that most of them aren't using ad blockers, so they're still losing money. People were ad blocking my change the channel vid. Like, one guy was legitimately saying that. I'm like, I didn't want to respond to him, but I just wanted to say, like, okay, that doesn't do anything, because I can't monetize these videos even if I wanted to. And even if I did later, the views are already there. The chance for ad revenue is gone. I appreciate it. That I wanted to make that out of passion, and I'm glad that people watched it. That's all I care about, but you using ad blocker and saying you used it doesn't do anything to me, and kind of just makes you look like even more of an asshole, and people in the comments tended to agree. I see a lot of people know each other from other streams. That's cool. I've seen Mars Girl's reaction to the Channel Awesome apology, the whole thing. She was live streaming WoW. Yeah, she was very pissed, I'll give it that. Lindsay lied about what went on with Dan Olson, and admitted the fact that he committed 2 Class A indictable felonies that weren't acted upon by the RCMP and Crown Prosecutor's Office. I don't think I ever saw that. I think that was, like, omitted early in the document. I could be wrong. But yeah, Lindsay Ellis's section, and just the whole thing on, like, the anti-Gamergate stuff, and the stuff on, like, 8chan or whatever, I wanted to get through those quickly as possible, because those were just going to be hot button topics, and I did not want any of that to devolve into a sexism argument. That was just asking for trouble, and I just want to get through those fast as possible. Plus, they were at the very end of the document, so that was kind of easy. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried renaming it to That Guy with the Glasses. After all, that's what they went with all along. At this point, I wouldn't, I wouldn't say that's out of the question, but they also, killed That Guy. Their Ask That Guy segment, so that'd be kind of strange. I don't know. The Fairly Odd Parents movie, that makes me kind of nostalgic, even if I did find it, man. Yeah, Drake Bell as Timmy Turner. Weirdest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I will never get used to that. Ever. People are giving hugs in the chat. Quinta Reviews and Pie Guy Rules, they're just mentioning each other back and forth. I did see Pie Guy's video, one of the better ones in my opinion. Yes, it very much was. I did not watch the latest NC video, and I won't, but it got some serious high-grade watching. Yeah, it did. But it also got a lot of people in the comment section. Again, the deletion of that. Alpha Megasin is the man, hell yeah. Well, for me, it was That Guy with the Glasses. I don't recall going to see Channel Awesome, really. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you put the chat into slow mode, you'll be able to follow it faster, because it allows you to delay the post speed by a few seconds. I do know that, but that seems kind of stupid since I'm, like, already at the bottom, because this is a very slow-moving chat. There's not really that many people here, so putting it in slow mode kind of, really doesn't exactly help things. And plus, this is like a chat sort of discussion live stream. This is what this is, and sort of like a channel discussion live stream. That would kind of defeat the point a bit. It's a good suggestion if, like, this chat ever got big, and I will take that into consideration. Don't worry. But just not right now, because that would just, yeah. I already said my piece. Sad Panda has had the best response. He has. I've seen his stuff, too. A salary response to CA drama was the best. Yeah, I'm hearing, a lot of, really good, like, these responses were all good. It really opened my eyes. It showed the situation. Chris Stuckman's especially, them saying they resign in there, blah, blah, blah. And just, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Drake Bell as Spider-Man was weird, too. Did Drake Bell play Spider-Man? I can't remember. I'm sure he probably did at one point. It wouldn't surprise me. Got Doug from James, and James is still a nice, normal guy. Yeah, I'm also, okay, just another thing to bring up. This is kind of just sort of a comment comment bitch section, this section, in particular, is someone actually brought up the whole AVGN and Doug Walker argument. And I want to clarify something. When I said I think AVGN is better, I just meant more in his, like, his persona, how he, does his stuff on YouTube. He has his own controversies, like how he just didn't want to see, was it the Godzilla? No, the Ghostbusters movie, but yet he still made a video on it. But that's like minor. If that's the only real controversy he has to his name, other than the AVGN movie kind of taking away from other Angry Video Game Nerd episodes, then that really says something. Whereas like Channel Awesome has these mountains upon just absolute mountains of allegations and like evidence piled on top of it. And where was I going with this? Oh, and someone also brought up that the AVGN is the filmmaker part. I don't remember if I said that. It was late at night. If I did, I also want to point out that at least AVGN, I think someone else pointed this out. AVGN knew what he was doing. He was very ambitious, but he also knew the proper etiquette to running a movie. He knew like the specifics of how to do it, how to treat the cast and crew, how to, make the special effects work, albeit in a very cheesy way. It was also the same with Linkara. He wanted to make his Atop the Fourth Wall movie the antithesis of that. And it worked. Like, if you don't watch his stuff, you could still say, these were okay for what they are. If these were an actual movie, that would depend on what you were looking for. These probably wouldn't be considered particularly good movies, but you can at least see that they tried and had passion behind them. And, the people there actually did want to do it. Sorry, taking another drink. Rowdy C announced a couple of days ago that he's probably going to end his flagship series next year. He also admitted that what happened with Channel Awesome hit him hard, and he's not sure what he's going to do. Rowdy C's flagship title still is TV Trash, right? Because I know he did a few wrestling things on the side, but yeah, I remember finding... Okay, I found Rowdy C in the most weird roundabout way that I want to get to in a second. But yeah, that's... I can understand him getting hit by that, but wow, that's kind of a big blow. Especially considering he's, like, not a very, well-known in terms of the, in the grand scheme of things, reviewer. Well, that and James wasn't even being sexist when he made that. He made the video to the inevitable question. Okay, yeah, and that too. It had nothing to do with them being, woman Ghostbusters. That was just, that argument was just such. I'm not even gonna get into it. But yeah, he did that addressing like the fans and that. But it was also he didn't want to talk about it. But at the same time, the YouTube video was him talking about it. But then people made it into, oh, like James doesn't want to support women. You're sexist, and that came from like the entire marketing and how the movie was. Actually made. They wanted to make it like this really instead of actually trying to make a Ghostbusters movie, they just wanted to make it a movie to prove I don't know. They wanted to do it to prove a point rather than to actually make a good a good comedic movie and actually they want to make it an improv Ghostbusters and wanted to show that women could be proud. They could be Ghostbusters too. Okay. Nobody was asking that question. I mean, I could go on and nitpick about how some of the, scenes in the first two Ghostbusters are sexist, but two things you have to remember. Number one is that it was at a different time, and I don't think they ever meant for those connotations of, her being the secretary. I don't even know what that has to do with them being sexist. And number two, Did you not see any of the other Ghostbusters material that followed afterwards? Okay, I'm getting off of that. Because I don't want to have this turn into a tangent and just make this... I'm getting off of that right now. Okay, TV Trash is still Rowdy C. Okay, it is still his flagship series. Did DeFranco ever offer his opinion on Channel Awesome? Not yet, but considering how, like, everyone's talking about this, it might be an inevitability, especially with, how many creators are actually leaving. And yeah, they are losing creators big time, GJ. Not as long as McCall is still there and Doug Zeke remains the size of the Milky Way. Yeah. As someone who works in construction, you do not want to work as an independent contractor without a contract. Exactly. None of them actually ever got paid. They never got paid for Kick-Assy, which was fine. And then, they just sort of... They just kept doing that because there was a sense of teamwork. And then as it went on and on and on and on, the getting paid excuse, didn't make sense anymore. Like, it was just a complete bullshit argument. At that point. And it boggles my mind. Even The Room, like, with Tommy Wiseau, I'll at least give it this. For how, like, terrible the production of that was, and for how bad the movie came out with, number one, you can at least tell Wiseau had a passion behind what he was doing, and actually, was thankful, even if people like it ironically, that people liked his movie, even if, there was still, like, very similar instances, like the whole actors fainting on set thing is kind of paralleled into Boldly Flee and, all their other productions, that Channel Awesome did, was so also, paid as actors and actresses. See Midnight's Edge videos on the new Ghostbusters. Yeah. I probably will check those out. As an attorney, I could say as an attorney, I could say, yeah, you want a contract of some point, always. Yeah. If you want to see good female empowerment films, watch Mad Max, Fury Road, and Wonder Woman. Yeah. Yeah. The sad thing is, all those actresses are actually pretty good. If the writers hadn't been so focused on the political side, they could have really been good there. Okay, yeah, that's the other thing, too. They were actually really talented women. These are real comedians. They can make something really funny. They cannot do improv worth a shit. I mean, no offense to them. Well, some of them can pull it off. But not if they're there for, like, 10 minutes at a time while the camera is just, like... I think Mr. Plinkett said it best. Like, nobody said cut. Cut the movie. Just cut. You need to know when to say cut. A little bit of editing, even just editing in that movie, could go such a long way. It didn't even need to be them getting about the political side. It was just them, talking about just, like, actually putting together it, even with all the crap that they had. They could have put together a good movie. They could have made it a funny scene. Just, ugh. They had the chance and they blew it. Yeah, it's usually either the script or the direction. Sometimes it's the producer. It's never usually the actor or actress's fault. Rarely is that the case. There's exceptions, but for the most part, yeah, it's usually on the directors, the editors, the writers, like, the people who actually want this movie to, happen. The actors are just there, get exposure or to, let their name be better known out there. They're not doing it just, solely because that they go in there with the intent of making a bad movie. I don't even think they have the intent of it going in there either a good or bad movie. They're just neutral because it's a script. They need to put food on the table. I'm sure they would love to have integrity, but it's the same thing online. the To Boldly Flee showed up on my YouTube suggestion yesterday. Yeah, that's the weird thing. Like, a lot of the Change the Channel stuff, if you watch it, it'll automatically suggest that you want to see more Channel Awesome stuff, which is really kind of funny and kind of ironic, but also a little sad. Most movie remakes are garbage anyway. The remakes of Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th were horrible movies that failed so spectacularly it killed the plans for Child's Play. I'm not a horror movie buff myself. I know of those movies. I've never actually seen them, so I can't comment. I can comment on like the actual remakes that I have seen, but I'm just not going to, just for the sake of brevity and just to keep this stream on track so we have like a whole like flow of conversation, because we kind of dip back into the Change the Channel stuff a little bit. Now I just kind of want to see the like people talk or discuss, try and waver off this subject a bit. It's an interesting subject, and it's just I want to save that talk for when we actually go into the document once it's filled up, whenever that may be. Because I'm sure I know John Page has added stuff. Is probably gonna add stuff on there. Stuckman's probably got a bit to say, as well as Horror Guru, and yeah. Have I seen Ralph the Movie Maker's videos? No, but I want to. I've seen Your Movie Sucks. I've seen I Hate Everything. I have not seen Ralph's... Or wait, have I? I can't remember. I'd have to see, like, the style of videos and just sort of, like, the icon just to, like, see, did I watch this video? I probably did, knowing me. Because I, like, watched, like, a variety of different YouTubers at any given moment. A lot of it actually on my suggestions, in my suggestion feed, but that's a completely unrelated story. But I also know that they also do the podcast, the Sardonicist podcast. Is that how you pronounce it? Is that how you say it? I only just seen it like mentioned more now because it's getting more traction, because it's all three of them together just doing a podcast. So I want to check that out, and I want to check out Ralph the Movie Maker video. Yeah, Ralph the Movie Maker himself. You have to watch his Love on a Leash review. It's awesome. All right, dude, you're missing out on a lot. Okay, all right, I got the message. I'll watch Ralph the Movie Maker. Ever watched RBG Productions? Depends. What does the RBG stand for? Because they sound familiar, but I might have, like, seen one of their videos, but I don't know who exactly you're referring to. Drake Bell made an appearance on Grandfather, the show that Josh Peck was on. Yeah, that was sort of a reunion of sorts. They even made, like, little references to Drake and Josh. I've actually seen those clips. I was watching his Twitch yesterday, and he was in a really bad mood. I wonder if this has anything to do with it. Who was in a bad mood? Wait, let me see. Today, when did he leave? Wait, when did Josh leave? Is anyone else getting viral videos in the recommendations on this stream? I know I have. I've gotten some viral videos just from, having my own streams on there, yeah. Yeah, that's just YouTube being, that's just YouTube being YouTube, I guess. Oh wait, was that supposed to be RGB? It was supposed to be Good Bad Flicks. I think I've seen one of their videos. Maybe. If not, I have to check out RGB Productions out. Again, I haven't, like, seen every YouTuber in existence. No, that's impossible. I don't watch, like, any conspiracy theory video. If you see my, like, subscriptions list, which I don't think you can, but if you, like, you'll get a good idea of, like, the people who I like to watch just through, like, the side section of the channel. What you'll actually be more surprised at is the amount of video games I've played, of which I've actually played very little of actually popular games. Like, just a little secret to you, I've never ever played a Final Fantasy game. Ever. I've only played the first Kingdom Hearts. I haven't played the second one, even though it's really good. I've never played Super Mario RPG, never played Thousand Year Door, never played Never played a lot of RPGs in general. Never played Legends of Dragoon. Never played any of those. Yeah, if you just ask me that, have not played a lot. I've seen a lot of cartoons. I've seen a lot of television media. I've seen a lot of movie media. Video games are kind of where I'm at right now. I've also not seen a lot of anime, except for like mainstream anime and a lot of shonens. RGB Productions is Spazmaster. Okay, it's Spaz. That's where I know him from. Um, I know him from Geek Vision and that with Tony Goldmark and Some Jerk with the Camera. I know who Spaz is. Yeah, I've seen him. I've seen his reviews. Yeah, I have. I do know who you're talking about now. Pretty much everyone in the Vario crew, which was featured in Goodfellas, is either dead, in prison, or in hiding. It's a little ironic. Non-mainstream anime gets real fast. Yeah, funny story about that. One of the only pieces of mainstream anime that I watched, I want to say it was when it was popular. It was around 2012 or 2013. I was in like middle school, and it was on a dare that I watched this show, and I put it on my anime list and reviewed it, if only to like warn people and to give people like this really comedic review while also saying never watch this piece of abomination. It was Boku no Pico. And if you remember that anime and just how viral that was on YouTube, I had to like play this like really stupid game on Newgrounds. Was it like the Crash the Castle games? It was one of those, and I had to watch that based on a dare because I didn't do that. I was a man of my word. I had to watch that, and never again. I can at least say that I've now seen the worst anime in my life. It turned me off from watching any other anime for years. For a good, like, what is it now? 5-6 years? Yeah. I mean, I've gotten out of that now, and I've been slowly trying to get back into it. Like, for the longest time, I never saw Cowboy Bebop, despite how acclaimed that was. And I just got around to watching it. It's a really good series. On a Discord that I'm in, we've recently been rewatching. Well, they've been rewatching. I've been watching for the first time, Yu Yu Hakusho. Which was it was made by the same guy who did Hunter x Hunter. And yeah, I am just in love with it so far. I'm not up to any of the tournament arcs. I'm up to the oh god, I'm blanking it. I'm up to where they meet. Oh, I'm gonna blank on her name. What's her name? She had like the same voice actor as Frieza. Geico. Geeko. I'm up to like that arc in the story. God. I'm blanking on her name, and like I'm probably making the person who watches it, who is subscribed to my channel, by the way, who actually like really loves that series, I'm probably making him cringe just how wrong I'm getting it. I love that series, by the way. I love Hakusho. I can't wait for Mr. Plinkett Last Jedi review. Yeah, that's a review I'm looking forward to. Even though Red Letter Media has their own like stuff behind them, I love their content. Well, specifically their like movie review content. Like Half in the Bag. I've watched a few episodes of Half in the Bag, and from what I've seen of them, I really love it. And especially their Mr. Plinkett ones. Like, sometimes I'll just have that running in the background just when I'm doing other stuff. Unsolved Mysteries is the bomb. Watched it as a kid and got scared every week. I do remember Unsolved Mysteries. That was a weird and freaky show. Going back to the Ghostbusters thing, Kylie Griffin, she was a character from the Extreme Ghostbusters cartoon. Yeah, and we're getting back into that stuff. Middle school in 2012. Now I feel old. I can't remember if it was 2012. I just know I was in middle school. Like, I graduated last year. Okay, so it was last year. So 2017, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12. Okay, so yeah, it would have been middle school. A lot of other stuff like Ask a Mortician, blah blah blah. Anyone here a Lupin the Third fan? I've started watching it on Toonami when it airs. But yeah. So I'm 18. Yes, I am. I'm 18, going on 19 in May. Yeah, that's why I had to like go back, and I was like, okay, so what year was this? I gotta make sure it was in middle school. I was pretty sure it was in the middle school range. I just couldn't remember if it was like early or late. Yeah, a lot of people, including myself, think I'm like 13 or 14 because of my voice. Like, I've gotten people saying I'm like 9 years old. I don't blame them. I hate the sound of my own voice too, but you know, it's the voice God gave me. Again, made a comment. My Adam's apple, it's just non-existent. Well, you would be bar legal in parts of Canada, right? Except I don't live in Canada. I live in the good old U.S. of A. I'm not telling you not telling any of you in the chat where I live. Don't want any of you knocking on my door, like at all. I'm not telling you shit, except that I don't live in Canada. You don't sound 9. You'd be surprised how like people have gotten my alternate name wrong for Steam as well. People have said I'm 9. People have said I've been raging. I don't know. Okay, Mid Atlantic Gal, I appreciate the sentiment. I am not in my 20s at all. The middle school is 95. Wow. Yeah, now you guys are making me feel like really young, and I was feeling like really old a while back, just knowing like I was 18. And like, to give you perspective of how like old I feel now, is that Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy, one of my favorite games of all time, came out in 2001, 17 years ago. It's almost as old as I am. Plot twist, SwizzlyBubbles actually does live in Canada. He's trying to throw us off the trail. Now, what do you think about that? What if I actually was Canadian and just started speaking like this random Canadian accent? I don't know a Canadian accent. No. Proton John's from Canada, though. He's Canadian. That's about all I know about that country. No, I'm kidding. I know a bit more about Canada than that. Yeah. I know he lives in the Netherlands. Guys, you're not going to figure out where I live. Stop trying to guess. I'm old enough to be Slizzly's mom for real. Yeah. It's good to see young people like you with an appreciation for older games. I don't feel that young. Really. Well, I feel young in certain respects, but like, okay, so my generation, I just, despise my own generation, at least in the sense of like Gen Xers. Are they Gen Xers or is this Gen Z? I can't remember. But yeah, they're all in the reboots, revivals. I personally have just like not even played the original games. Like, okay, Crash Bandicoot was an exception because the upscaled version, like the HD remasters of that, they make the games look like just a million times better to just play, and they really update that for the modern age. I'm talking about stuff like, okay, if you want to know why I have such an appreciation for that, is because when I grew up, just a little trivia about myself, and why I love animation so much. I grew up with a lot of like Toon Disney, Jetix, Cartoon Network, and Nickelodeon back in the early 2000s. To give you perspective, not a lot of new cartoons that were, popular amongst there, except for like SpongeBob, but that came out in 99. were coming out right then. It wasn't until like the mid to late 2000s that those started, popping up, like the X's, Timo Supremo, all of those. Um, but around that time was when they were heavily, and I mean heavily, especially on Toon Disney because of what the network was known for. They didn't really do original content so much. That was more on Disney Channel at the time. With like House of Mouse and like their live action stuff, Dave the Barbarian and all of that. Around that time, was where I actually watched Chippendale Rescue Rangers, DuckTales, Tailspin, Goof Troop. For Nickelodeon, it was All Real Monsters, Rugrats. It's all like all 80s and 90s shows. I remember like seeing Beetlejuice at one point on one of the older networks. Like Hey Dude, I found out through I want to say it was Teen Nick because they were airing those like earlier on. Um, I knew about Degrassi around there. I knew about You Can't Do That on Television. Because it was mostly for stuff in the 80s and 90s, stuff in like the 50s, and backwards. I'm not too knowledgeable about. That's kind of where my like history thing ends. But yeah, as I grew up with those shows, and especially as I grew up into the in the 2000s era, I started to gain more of an appreciation for the older media. That's why I'm not so like keen on reboots and revivals as everyone else, and want to like look at the shows like as they were. Like the Powerpuff Girls reboot, for example. I don't. No one was asking for that. I didn't even ask for like the dance pants thing. Everyone like wanted to see. Oh, we should have Powerpuff Girls come back. Why? Like Greg McCracken was working on stuff like Fosters and Wander, and like he actually had his own show. He worked for other shows. He was on like Two Stupid Dogs. Powerpuff Girls had its time and it came and went. It was still running when I was around. And yeah, everyone's nostalgic for it. Like everyone wanted the Powerpuff Girls to come back. The show was episodic. It had its run. It came back in Flash with Craig McCracken for a proper series finale. But no, everyone wanted that. Everyone wanted a reboot of Well, no, actually, everyone wanted a reboot of the Teen Titans. Or they wanted a revival of the Teen Titans for Season 6. To be fair, I also wanted that, because that's an early 2000s show that left itself on a cliffhanger. It's sort of like... I wanted to at least see one more season. I wanted it to be like Samurai Jack, because Samurai Jack was supposed to have an ending. I'm glad that got revived, even though I think like the first few episodes are astounding. Like masterpieces, just completely captured Samurai Jack, and then as it went on, it just sort of, became amazing to good. It was still really good, but you could tell that they were hitting like time constraints and budgets. But like whoever was asking for a reboot of Ben 10, of all fucking things, I will never understand why you wanted that. I grew up with Ben 10. I had like every single figurine, like merchandising thing from the series. I could have like, I bought so much of that shit. I probably funded that on my own. Like, I bought, like, every single thing in the collection. I had the Omnitrixes, had all the figurines of the aliens. Up until, like, Ultimate Alien was when I stopped. But up until, like, the end of Alien Force, I was ingrained in that series. And it still aired into 2014 with Omniverse. So, it boggles my mind that they still wanted to do that again. There's also the fact that I did have a bigger appreciation for shows in like the 60s and 70s as well, through Boomerang. That was a special treat. I would go to my like one of my relatives' house, and they'd have Time Warner cable, because that was when cable was like really hitting it big. It wasn't as, wasn't at all like it is now. But it was like this really special occasion, because we had like our TV stations that we grew up with were very like local to like satellite cable. We rarely had any like cable TV. We did have it at a point, and then we moved and all that other stuff, and it was always this like big thing that I wanted to see, because I could get like Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and Disney Channel, and I think to an extent Toon Disney while it was still running. But then when cable came around, I would watch Disney XD, Boomerang, and Nicktoons Network just nonstop. And thanks to that, I found so many like legacy cartoons from the 80s and 90s. I found out about like wacky races. Like I would just spend like late nights just, sitting there watching Boomerang up until midnight. Sometimes they would like run the Addams Family or like actual live action shows from back then, but like Tom and Jerry, Scooby Doo, obviously that was one of the bigger ones. Like Adamant, Top Cat, Looney Tunes especially when they did the marathon on Cartoon Network way back when. Um, it was just I kind of miss that, and I think people still miss that because Boomerang now, it's just a secondary Cartoon Network. All their other stuff is held in the streaming services, which I get because they want to move into more streaming things, but it sucks that now like what was essentially just like this kind of huge thing, because cable TV at that point still wasn't hard to come by. I mean, it was expensive, but it wasn't like too expensive. With streaming, there's so many streaming services now. It's trying to like oversaturate an already saturated market even more. Like I don't want like the Disney streaming service, even if it does give like exclusive shows, because why would I do that if I over like Netflix or Hulu? Why do I need all these streaming services that I need to pay extra for? People are talking about the Mr. T cartoon. Okay, I missed like a ton of chat. I'm so sorry. Am I familiar with the original Powerpuff Girls? Yes, I'm definitely familiar with that. Plot twist, going by that accent, SwizzlyBubbles is actually from Minnesota. I'm not from Minnesota. I don't live in Minnesota. I'm like, you're not even close. That accent sounds like you're more someone from the Maritimes or from one of the hick parts of Quebec. I'm not from Canada. I'm not from Canada. Gen X is from before the millennials. Okay, so ours I think is Gen Z or whatever. Technically, I'm a Gen Xer, born in '83. Nice. I didn't expect that actually, Hammerhead, that you were born in 1980s. Good on you. Love the Beetlejuice cartoon. Can't do that on television. I missed out on all the good Tartakovsky and Maxwell Adams stuff. No, I didn't. I did not bring up okay, so I remember watching all of those, but you also have to remember on top of that, I also had Foster's. I had like oh god, now I'm blanking. There was like El Tigre, The Adventures of Manny Rivera, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Evil Con Carne. I think Maxwell Adams was working on Dead Meat at one point. Courage the Cowardly Dog. Cartoon Fridays was a huge thing before it, switched over to Fridays. And then Fried Dynamite, which... just gonna blank that out of my memory. I remember, like, all of those 2000 shows. Even, like, the really obscure ones that you wouldn't know. Like, there was this... Rebel Taxi brought it up. There's like this one with like a boy and his dog, and he's like, it's the one that everyone remembers, but nobody remembers the name of. One show that I'm really sad didn't get more attention was Robot Boy, which, I mean, everyone remembers it for the memes, but I remember it as like a really good action show. It was very stylized and it was cheap. It was made in Flash, but it was good for what it was and what it tried to be. It didn't like need to be like this huge it kind of was following in the steps of My Life as a Teenage Robot, but it was very much its own thing. You might sound too young to some. I got the Joel Hodges voice. Are you sure you meant Joel Hodgson, like from Mystery Science Theater? With a lot of whiz for a kid. Cartoons in the 80s and 90s were insane. More of the stuff from Boomerang, like Birdman. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention, I've just caught up on a lot of the early Adult Swim era shows too, like, well, early Adult Swim and early Cartoon Network, like Space Ghost Coast to Coast, Harvey Birdman Attorney at Law, Space Lab 2021, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, although that's been around since forever. I'm very well. I was actually during the early 2000s very well versed on everything Toonami and still am. I just loved that block so much. And also someone brought up the New Adventures of Johnny Quest was my shit. Yes, it was. It was very much so. I love that. I've been recently getting really into the Venture Brothers, and I'm still waiting on season 6. Or was it season 7? No, season 5 was the one where they moved to New York, right? It was the one that just premiered. It was like they just had the huge big thing where like it was, I don't know, I'm blanking. It was like they were like restructuring the entire like league after Superior died. Like this was after all of that, and like they got like new location, new everything, while the Venture Brothers original headquarters was still being like reconstructed after all that. Spoilers, actually, to anyone who hasn't watched the Venture Brothers. Although that's kind of a spoiler. Well, no, it's not, because they advertised that's how the beginning of the season starts. But yeah, the stuff about the Superior, that's a little bit of a spoiler. Nostalgia. It helps. DuckTales is essentially a new series and not just a rehash of the old one. DuckTales is really good, and that's coming from someone who actually watched the original episodes. The new DuckTales reboot is amazing. Like, I know there's some elements that, like, they made Webby into sort of a Mabel clone, which, granted, that's probably going to be dated in the near future. It's just going to be inevitable, like, looking back in the 2010s, there's going to be, like, Mabel... People are already comparing them now to, like, their personalities, but let me put it this way. It's a lot better than what she was. Because she was, like, the stereotypical, like... The girly girl demographic, like, from... I'm talking Gen 3 to Gen 3.5 My Little Pony. Like... Trust me, for all the good I'm saying about the 90s and the 80s, there was just some ungodly awful shit in that era as well. Every era has it. Even the 2000s had it. Oh yeah, there was the big emo craze for a while. Like, there was the whole, like, rebellious era. It was like the 2000s was trying to be what the 90s was, except horribly failing at it, and, just trying to be overly hip, while also adding an edge to it. It was the 90s, but with edge. And angst, and anger, and, oh, life is so, ugh. I do like a lot of music from that era, though. I never actually found out a majority of the bands who did that music up until recently. But I have a soft spot for that kind of music. Even stuff like Nickelback, which I can fully, Nickelback, Smash Mouth, like, I'll just leave my piece on those for later. There was a Mr. T cartoon, Magilla Gorilla, I remember. Gen 3. Oh yeah, the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, hosted by Captain Lou Albano. Remember when Lou Albano dressed up as Mario and told kids they go to hell if they ever did drugs? You go to hell when you die if you ever do drugs. That was such a weird moment. Remember the Legend of Zelda cartoon? That was just so weird. It was like watching an old married couple. It didn't really have any adventure elements to it, but whatever. Actually, I remember Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog and the Sonic Sat AM cartoon. Because, let me tell you something. Weird fact, I actually saw the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon first. And I found it really weird and really trippy. And this was when I was sick. So it was doubly, like, absolutely trippy. Just, like, completely off-the-wall madness. Everything everybody's told you about that series is true. It just makes no sense. And I thought Sonic Sat AM was a sequel series to it, because it still starred Jaleel White, and I thought those, like, were intertwined in a way, like Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog was just sort of... I guess in a way it kind of was. It was sort of like an off-brand, like, spin-off series to it. But yeah, Sonic Set AM I later found out was just its own thing. And a lot of the characters from the comics came from there. In fact, the comics, I think, were also like what was worked on after it. It was the Archie comics that sort of, wrapped up the initial storyline of the show. And then as it went on, it evolved into what the Sonic comics, were until the Genesis wave came and then just, completely destroyed the canon of the comic because, Ken Penders is an asshole. And then they tried to restructure the comic, and then that fell through because now they're no longer with Archie Comics. Now it's IDW, which I've yet to read, and I want to. Sonic Set AM was the Sonic cartoon after it got out of rehab. That's actually a pretty good way to describe it. I couldn't have said it any better myself. This is crack. It's not good, and it kills me. That was especially strange, seeing Pee Wee Herman with just a bottle, just saying, this is crack, and just being super deadpan about it. Crazy that Jaleel Weiss, aka Steve Urkel, was the voice of Sonic. It's even crazier that like they got him back for like the live action fan version. Which actually, didn't they also get Doug Walker and AVGN sort of going back to the whole Channel Awesome thing? Didn't they get those two on as well? They got like a lot of people from that era to like guest star on that. It was a huge thing for a while. And that just sort of came and went. And now they're actually making a real Sonic. I don't know if it's full. I heard it was a live action animation hybrid movie. The irony of that whole you'll go to hell if you do drugs PSA is that Lou Albano was a cokehead in the 70s. I actually didn't know that. That just somehow makes it a lot funnier. Maybe he got clean. Maybe he was still doing drugs, and that's why he looked so weird in that commercial, because they just literally took him from, like, wherever he was and just say, hey, can you just film this real quick? The Paul Rubens jokes in the chat. Dave Mustaine from Megadeth did a guest spot on Duck Dodgers once. Did he? I used to watch Duck Dodgers whenever it was on I think it was Boomerang. I don't remember it airing on, like, Cartoon Network itself, like, Cartoon Network proper that often. Unless, I'm trying to think. Did they have, like, a spot on Fridays for it? It's been years. But yeah, Duck Dodgers I actually really liked as a show. I mean, I know it was weird because it was like the Looney Tunes. It was like this super serious, well, it was more serious tone, before Lunatics Unleashed, like, tried to, like, push action cartoons hard and ended up completely falling flat in its face until around the second season where it tried to, like, undo the mess that it was, but by then it was too late. Yeah, but yeah, Duck Dodgers I actually liked because it had this, like, weird element to it where it was, like, trying to keep itself a little serious, but it also still knew that it was Looney Tunes and it needed to be, like, somewhat, slapsticky. It needed to still keep that, like, whole, like, energy to it. It still needed to keep the Looney Tunes spirit in it in some way. What's really strange is how they got Tartakovsky to do an episode, and they actually also got Mako and Gendy himself to do the Samurai Quack episode. That was a surreal moment when the entire art style just completely shifted to the Samurai Jack art style. Never before have I seen that in a cartoon, and I don't think I'll ever see it since, but by God was it amazing. For, like, all the weirdest reasons. Okay, so yeah, Albano did keep doing he did keep doing drugs. That just makes that even more ironic in hindsight, just knowing that he was still high as a kite back then. One of the new cartoons I always enjoy is Johnny Bravo. Johnny Bravo is such an anomaly. I don't remember thinking much of it back when I originally saw it, but now, because that was one of the cartoons I actually kind of skipped for a while, and then I come back to it years later. It is hilarious. Like, it's really funny. It has some of like the most quotable stuff on Cartoon Network. And do you want to know what's even weirder? For any of you who don't know this, was that oh god, what was it? Seth MacFarlane was actually one of the main writers on it. And this was early Seth MacFarlane, by the way, before Family Guy ever happened, before he even pitched like Larry and Steve, which was like the predecessor to it. He just sort of yeah, it was just really funny. Like, it was actually like genuinely funny because, I want to say it's because Seth restricted himself to humor and didn't have like that Family Guy thing to, ride on and then like get creatively burnt out on in like the first few seasons and then continue to get creatively burnt out on as it got revived again. I'm also sorry for any who were watching or just getting kind of, bored of the stream right now. There's nothing really much to do. I might add like more graphics later on just to keep people interested, maybe add music in the background. But this is just sort of a chill stream. This sort of just became an everything stream. This sort of just became a nostalgic stream. Which is nice. Like, I enjoy just, talking with people about this kind of stuff. It's interesting. We've also been streaming for an hour and a half. Huh. Again, this stream doesn't really, like, have a point to it, I guess. This is just sort of a talking stream. We're going to get into the channel. Awesome. Change the channel stuff tomorrow because I know that's what everyone's here to see. But I just thought we could take the time and just, discuss this. I might do more of these. I might do actually, like, just gaming streams on, like, Twitch. Maybe play some TF2. I don't know how laggy that's going to be or how well that's going to go, but, nostalgic stream. You can't escape the channel. Awesome stuff. I really can. It's in the name. But, like, here's the thing. The Nostalgia Critic was doing stuff from, like, his childhood and sort of just mocking it or doing retrospectives on it. I, like, legitimately watched a majority of that, even though I grew up in the early 2000s. And I still consider that nostalgic. I just find it really weird that that's, like, has some sort... Well, no, because there was stuff like Fern Gully or, like, a lot of the early Don Bluth movies that I, had never seen up to that point. So, in that sense, like, I can see him, like, living through that. And also, like, the Pokemon phenomenon was absolutely huge in the 90s. But, yeah. Also, yeah, this has been popping up. I don't know why my videos have been popping up in suggestions feeds lately. I like it. It's fine. Like, I have no problems with it. It's just kind of weird. Somebody get me a cat video. Nyan cat or, like, actual cat? Or keyboard cat. Because there's several cat videos. I get you salad fingers if you really want to get fucked up tonight. Just get all kinds of weirded out. Maybe that's what I should do for a Halloween stream. Just watch really old, like, really creepy early Newgrounds videos. Dexter's Laboratory 2. Yep, Dexter's Lab. Why did I not think of this sooner? How can I talk about, like, 80s and 90s shows without bringing up any of the Spielberg shows? I'm an idiot! I never brought up Tiny Toons. I never brought up Animaniacs. Animaniacs was, like, it's like my #1 favorite show of all time. Again, that's why it sucks that it's getting a reboot, which I would have been all for if it had at least some of the main crew to, help guide the ship along. But considering they have nobody from there, nobody even voiced Slappy, who is like the voice actor and also one of the writers. And like they have like none of the original writers, and it's being headed by like Wesley, who worked on Family Guy on some of the, albeit he worked on like the Road to Multiverse episodes, but then he worked on like the really terrible episodes of Family Guy, like Sea or Seashell Party, which had like a ton of writers working on it. He was the head writer of those episodes. That does not instill much hope in me. And I'm happy that like if the rumors are true that Rob Paulson, Jess Harnell, and Tress MacNeille and Maurice LaMarche, they're all returning as like their respective characters, that at least gives me some semblance that they'll have something of worth. But right now I just can't get excited. But like the original shows, like undeniably some of like the best cartoons I've ever seen. Spielberg really knew how to do that. That's why I'm also going to give that reboot a chance. I'll also give it a chance, like, because Spielberg and Amblin are, kind of working on it. And I think they know Animaniacs well enough that they can try and, make this work. But I don't know. But Freakazoid, I've only just recently seen a lot of the later episodes of Freakazoid. It's such a weird, but really, like, a really good show. Like, it's well comedically timed. It's well comedically timed. It has, like, it was all over the place, but that was also because of its production. They got to work with really, like, off the wall people for cameos. And then there's like Pinky Elmira and the Brain Witch, given how stupid that was just as a concept, how they kind of made it work. And that was okay. This was before the Nostalgia Critic review. I already knew Pinky Elmira and the Brain was a thing, and I already seen a few episodes, and everyone hated it online, but I actually thought it was okay. It wasn't great. I didn't really laugh, but then again, I didn't really laugh at the original Pinky and the Brain series when it aired on Jetix when I saw it. Because I was young and I didn't really understand a lot of the humor, or get a lot of the references to Animaniacs or their older shows. But if you like want to catch me in like a show I haven't seen yet, that I've heard mixed things on, was it's not Tasmania. Hysteria, I think was the name of it. Freakazoid was better than Animaniacs. By all accounts, Albano. Okay, that was more about Albano. What more is there to say about the Channel Awesome stuff, though? It's been talked about to death. There's not really much to talk about the Channel Awesome stuff itself, per se, right now. The only other thing I'll probably do on it is just another live stream of the Channel Awesome document once it gets updated with the additional, like 20 pages or so that they've said. Like, it's going to be up to 80 pages by the time it's out. But if there's not, if it updates, I'll do that one last time and then end it. And just probably be done with the channel, change the channel stuff for a while. Until another thing happens. But if it doesn't get updated, then that's probably all you'll see of the change of the channel stuff. It was fun while it lasted, and I'm glad it happened, and I'm glad it got some people interested in the channel. But it's kind of it is getting played out a bit. Are you gonna make me want to sing the theme songs now? I'm singing in chat. I was kind of out of cartoons by the time Animaniacs came out. Yeah, I can see that. During like the 80s and 90s, like when kids were starting to grow up, that was sort of the phase where people were kind of, who grew up in the like late 80s, even the like mid 80s, were starting to see cartoons as like a kiddish thing. Which, to be fair, stuff like Pokemon and Digimon and like localizing anime to like localizing for like mainstream like kids anime and just sort of that whole push for um just that whole push of just like kiddish stuff like MLP or all that in general. Um that didn't exactly help things. But now I like that animation is starting to become more seen by like those in the medium as something, be respected, be seen as like actual art in a sense. I mean, there's still crap, don't get me wrong, but it's still there. Like it's still like having its presence now be known now so more than ever. In the 80s it was in the 80s and 90s. The 90s tried to break out of that like with stuff like Animaniacs, but there was still like um stuff like the Transformers and like all that was again like a lot of the toy trends like were in the yeah like they a lot of those trends were like really big in the 80s of trying to make toys out of literally anything or and trying to make a show out of it, making toys of literally anything and then just trying to make like a profit and a show off of it. And then the 90s kind of exacerbated that, but they also tried to break out of that. The 2000s was sort of that intermittent period where, okay, they broke out of the toy conceptions. Now, what were they going to do with it? Now, like, what can they do with, like, the original content that they have? And then the 2010s was sort of that fully realized to a point. Late 2000s like, early, what was it? Like, late 2000s to the early 2010s. The always 90s sucked in general. Popular music was in flux between the last dregs, the hair metal, and literally everything else in TV was either trying to be serious or everything was home improvement. Yeah. I mean, like on Nick at Night, like they were still like that was like the fleeting, like dying breath of the 90s and the early 2000s, in the mid 2000s, I should say, was sort of that same general vibe, which I don't know if that's still around anymore. I don't know like Nick at Night or any of the more nighttime networks. I haven't really watched Nick in years, even though that was like my main channel for a while. I could not like ever stop watching it, even back in the early 2000s, and I'm just kind of sad that it is what it is now. Especially sad that they changed the logo, and they still haven't changed it back, even though like everyone wanted it. Even the own people who were in the network, like the guy who did the Adventures of Pete and Pete, who's now like their product manager or whatever on anything, he still hates it. Like that's why the Splat was created, to like sort of branch out and make that like he wanted to make it his like his own sort of thing. That's why Nick Splat happened. That's why he wanted to give Craig Bartlett another chance to finish up Hey Arnold and actually want to continue the series with the original staff. And Nickelodeon now, I think, is getting more of a reputation of being the one who can actually do reboots, revivals, and treat their IPs right. Especially considering the Dan Schneider stuff is, they can't rely on the live action anymore. They have to start taking risks again, which I'm fearful for the network in this environment, but that's also what made Nickelodeon back in the early 90s great, is because they were a network to just take risks. They were a network that just threw stuff at the wall to see what stuck, and like see it splatter all over the wall onto the television screen. Hence the splat. That's what made it work. And then when they changed the logo, it sort of reflected that Nickelodeon was playing it safe. It wanted to be known across more mainstream networks. Now they can't rely on that anymore, which is both a blessing and a curse. Because they can't be heavily reliant on their old properties anymore, but they can't be solely, or they can't like not take any risks anymore. They have to, branch out. They have to do things. I'm glad the Loud House and that are working for them, and I hope that also doesn't mean they become too overly reliant on SpongeBob at this point, which, I mean, that's just always been a problem. That's been a problem since, like, who am I kidding? That's been a problem since all of SpongeBob's run. Not to try and change the topic, but Channel Awesome went down 30,000 or 3,000 subscribers in just this hour and 50 minutes alone. It was at like 1,063,000 earlier. At this rate, they're gonna just lose like that million status like right quick. Jesus. That's why both the new Masters of the Universe and Thundercats series were canceled. Their toys didn't sell well. Well, yeah, because they're growing up in an environment now where cartoons as a medium are trying to break out into, actually being entertaining instead. Toys are now secondary. The product comes first, which I like about that. I like about this new era, but it also means that unless your show is good, or no, I shouldn't say that, because MLP is a really good show, but it's also just a toy monster. Like, it's always been that way. Gen 5 just kind of helped with that as it broadened it out to both boys and girls alike. And also a large male demographic, but I think that was unintentional. But, like, the Thundercats cartoon was also really good. Problem was, it wasn't advertised that well. Same with Symbiotic Titan. And someone earlier, Jennasmith was saying, like, the early 2009s had some good stuff. It did. Don't get me wrong. I lived through that. But I can also tell you that 2009 was just kind of abysmal for cartoons. There wasn't really anything new out at that time. That was when Nickelodeon went through their, like, huge corporate shift to the network. Cartoon Network, obviously, CN Real, you guys have heard that all before. You guys heard it from, like, Pan or whoever, if you followed, like, the cartoon community at all. It's not really a community, it's just more people talking about cartoons. But 2009, it's all true. A lot of it was shit. It did have Chowder and Flapjack interspersed in between there, but it didn't have Adventure Time, it didn't have regular show, it didn't have... It completely, like, wiped off the map a lot of their original creators, and a lot of their shows that were still making them, like, a profit. And then they don't advertise the shows that they did have. Like, Ben 10 rarely got any advertisements because they were pushing the reality stuff. Symbiotic Titan just was completely gone, and they had to write that off. Megas XLR was not making anything anymore. The Secret Saturdays is a show that, like, nobody watched, even though that was, like, one of their big action shows, because action was starting to become played out, and now it's... I don't know. Nick at Night became a huge new channel. I didn't know that. I think it's still called Nick at Night. It's just a new channel. Doesn't Splat only air at 3 in the morning? It airs around, I think it begins at, like, 10 o'clock on... I want to say it airs around, like, 10 o'clock on T-Nick, and then it goes into 3 in the morning. So it's sort of like a midnight block. SpongeBob's quality started to become higher quality when Steven Hillenburg came back. It has. It's definitely... It's not back to seasons 1 through 3 quality. I don't think anything can ever match that, just because of the environment that it went through and because of everything surrounding it. But, like, it's good. I just wish there wasn't a lot of pandering. Like, I think this season in particular, even though I haven't watched much of it, is relying way too heavily on nostalgia for the older seasons. Don't get me wrong. Like, bringing Doodlebob and, like bringing Doodlebob, Bubble Bass, and all those back, because we hadn't seen them in a while, and they were, like, really underused when they were... They only ever appeared in one episode, because SpongeBob's episodic, and having some continuity is fine, but, like, when you have an episode entitled My Leg over the SpongeBob joke, and you're, like, that's kind of your driving force for the season, is just like, hey, remember this old thing? Let's just bring that back so that we can, do things with it. We won't, like, utilize a lot of these things to their fullest potential, granted, or really make humor. It's just, hey, here's a thing we did. We might do some good with it, but you gotta watch to find out. it's sort of like the reboot logic, except SpongeBob's been going on for years. It's like The Simpsons. It's the same brand of show, but it might as well just be a reboot of the original at this point, because it's like half of half or more of the original staff was just completely gone by that point in terms of The Simpsons. SpongeBob has parts of it, the original cast still there, but for the most part, it's a lot of newer people. And granted, a lot of them are talented people. Car Hadrica, for example, is a really talented artist, and I bet it was his dream to work on SpongeBob. Like, if you've seen his web cartoon, Becky Prim, really good. And I'm glad he got, like, recognition for it and gets to work on a show. He's there. It's just, his style doesn't really fit what SpongeBob was. SpongeBob's sort of morphed into this, like, whole new thing now. Stuckman took his subscribers with him. You mean Gen 4, Gen 5? Oh, yeah, Gen 4. Sorry, not Generation 5. Generation 5 is the new stuff coming out. Well, it's not unconfirmed rumors. There was leaked concept art, and they did accidentally leak, like, the plans, and they were confirmed by Hasbro to be the plans going forward at that point in time. I don't know if any of that's changed, but just judging by how the series is now going, and how they're now shifting towards, like, MLP, but it's in school. Season 8 is just gonna be going through school, and Twilight and the gang are now teachers teaching a younger generation. Yeah, that doesn't at all sound familiar to a lot of the tactics used in early 80s and 90s shows, Hasbro. And this totally doesn't seem like you're now looking to milk the franchise dry past, season 7, the pandering season. Oh, you got talented writers. You had Emmy Larson. You have, like, really good writer there. Wanted to write an episode. You made him write one instead that antagonized the fans. And when he really just wanted to have them appreciate, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, the episode is Fame and Misfortune. That's a whole nother mess of worms. But yeah, it's gotten, like, really bad at this point that I'm just sort of hoping that Gen 5 sort of does something different with it. I mean, Gen 4, just growing up, like, in that, and being more so a part of the brony community in parts. I was never actively a part of it, but I guess you could say I was a casual member of the brony community in that I just talked with, like, some of the more niche parts of it, or just talked about it and discussed it. But I was never really into it. It was either, I mean, like, you gotta understand, this was a time when, like, there were two of the biggest fandoms around that were just starting to take their reach, and you either had to pick one or the other. And I didn't know what Homestuck was at the time. I do now, but didn't know what it was in its heyday. So the show that I picked up instead was MLP. And that's what sort of took over a lot of my life for a good while, at least on the internet. And I'll always have a special place in my heart there, but man, like, it just needs to move on to something else. Just like the stream. Do I have a so bad it's good movie favorite? Okay. I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this. But my so bad it's good one is The Cat in the Hat. And if you want an argument as to why, there's a video that just released. I could not tell you this, like, straight out, because I'm not at all well versed in, like, telling this to you. It's called An Argument for The Cat in the Hat by Breadman, or whatever his name is. And that better explains why I think it's so bad it's good. In a way that, like, I never saw Cat in the Hat as faithful to the original. I never read the original books at that point. I just saw it as its own thing, really. But that's my so bad it's good movie. Like, because I can riff on that till the cows come home, but I did kind of have, when I was really young, like I'm talking like 7 or 8, I did have a tiny bit of a soft spot for that movie. If you want a good breakdown on what happened to The Simpsons, check out Super Eye Patch Wolf. He did the Day The Simpsons Died episode, like the Day Blank Died series. You're brave, Mike Myers is scary in the costume. I actually didn't have a problem with that. Maybe it was my younger self, but I didn't have like an issue with that. I was scared of like more like implied stuff, like the whole. If you want something really like as a good example of that, Salad Fingers in and of itself as a YouTube series didn't scare me. It was like the implications behind it, and, like the stuff that you didn't know about that kind of scared me personally. I've never been frightened by like scary imagery. It's like a jump scare, but that's like everyone. You're just gonna jump at a jump scare. But I've never been freaked out by like scary things, like just by their looks. It's more so what happened to them to make them that way that I think is more frightening. And I love how people are in the chat are just talking about the old Winston cigarette commercial for the Flintstones. That was weird. And then they changed it to Smucker's jelly. It was a weird time for the Simpsons, or the Flintstones rather. That's the other thing. One show I need to get around to watching is like that I've only seen in parts but never like actually binge through is The Simpsons seasons 1 through, okay, I know like seasons 2 and 3 are considered like them actually finding their footing, but I just want to what I have like a commitment to just like watch through season 1 just because I know it's like still early on, they're not fully in their characters yet, and it's animated by Klasky Supo, and it's kind of messy and rough, but I want to just watch that just to get like an idea of how they evolved over time, especially from their beginnings on the Tracy Ullman show, just how like the Simpsons came into their own and how the style of comedy formed over the years. It's seasons 1 through, was it 11 that did it? Which one was it? Which season aired The Principal and the Pauper? Someone could tell me in the chat. The Doms joined Some Jerk as a camera is being on the fence. Uh-oh. Season 7 really should have been the finale of The Simpsons? Or about, MLP? Because MLP I would agree with you on, but season 7 of The Simpsons is like, that's still like midway through like the initial like good run. They still had a lot of really good episodes to it. Anyone have an opinion on the Illuminations Grinch? I think it looked good. It captures like the look of the Grinch almost, but like the initial teaser, like with Happy and how he's got like the whole one-slur look to him with the scarf and that's not giving me a lot of hope. And the fact that it looks like it's going for like a more modern look at the Grinch and more like how he reacts in modern day Who life or whatever, that's not instilling much hope in me either. Okay, so it was MLP. Then yeah, season 7, yeah, that should have been where it ended. Yeah, I completely agree with you there. It's kind of just, lost all traction. And I understand that the writers were busy, working on the movie. That happens. It's what happened with Danny Phantom, and especially during the writer's strike. But, man, it just needs to end. I would rather them go on to Gen 5 than continue the original series. Gen 4. 8 is where Principal and the Pauper aired. Okay, so Simpsons seasons 1 through 8. Is it any wonder they usually cycle the Transformers movie after 3 seasons? Well, I think 3 seasons for a show is. I mean, if I made my own show, I'd be like, honest to God, just thankful for if I had that for a television series. But like, after a while, you're gonna suffer creative burnout. Some talented writers can really make that last, but eventually, your show's gonna, hit a roadblock. Um, and that's kind of why I'm glad Transformers cycles out every now and then, just so it doesn't get stale. The movie was where it lost the plot for me. A bit overdue. Series of okay. Most shows get stale after 4 seasons or so. Um, yeah, pretty much. Like, okay, if you want a really good example of a show that really held my interest for the longest time, but it just didn't after its like 3rd season, I am gonna cause such controversy for this, but I really don't like Star vs. the Forces of Evil's 3rd season. I'm just not a fan. I was really in love with like the beginning. I was really in love with how it started out. With Eclipse and the Battle for Muni Saga and all of that. But like everything else, from the plot holes to like the forced like leaving of Earth and just to focus on Muni, them stalling the Eclipse trial, like completely, like the hiatuses really burned me on this one too. All the stuff like ignoring Meteora until we're like halfway through the season. The entire focus on the love triangle aspect that we already went through in season B or season 2B and season 2A. We already went through this. Why are we doing this again? And this is coming from someone that actually liked Star versus like earlier seasons when it was episodic but it still kept a plot going. Then they started adding more plot into there and started focusing less on the episodic, but I could get behind that because it was written well. Season 3A just feels like a rehash of everything there, and it burned me so badly that it didn't hold my attention to keep watching the rest of the series. And that sucks because Star vs. for the longest time was like my go-to show. Because MLP, I completely just kind of was off from that time. And like, I hadn't watched anything really on TV up to that point. SpongeBob was long gone. Fairly Odd Parents started getting stale. I can't get into like more live action shows like Game of Thrones. They're just not my thing. Or The Walking Dead or Breaking Bad. I can't get into those. And I've heard not so good things that The Walking Dead is kind of, also hit seasonal decay. I couldn't get into any of that. And television, I've just like kind of only really had as background noise. But Star vs. was that one show that just kept me hooked. But then it just in its like later 3rd season, which is weird because usually it takes shows 4 seasons to hit that decay. Star vs. had that momentum and then just something hit it like right at season 3 after Battle for Muni, and they were like, that's it, we can't do any more, and then just it went right in the toilet. There was just so much wrong with that season. A good example, they built up the entire like Marco has to make a decision of when he can no longer go to Earth. He has to make a decision between Muni. He's lost like Jackie. Jackie got fucking screwed, by the way, in how like she had this like entire character arc built up from the 2nd season, and everyone was like, no, she's not a plot device. She can't be. Like, they've done all this stuff with her. We never really like see her again. We see her once after sophomore slump. But aside from that, they barely ever acknowledge her. They acknowledge Jana more, who I love Jana as a character, but they didn't really focus on her that much in the 2nd season, so I can't exactly get into her character when they haven't really fleshed out fully who her character is. They focused more on Jackie with that, and then Jackie got completely just like ditched after that. And the worst part is that they made this big deal about Marco going to Muni and trying to be this knight, and now being Star's like guard or whatever. I don't even remember what it was. And like he's just, oh, this is good for him. It has to be a trip. Marco still has the dimensional scissors. By the way, spoilers for Star Versus. Why all that build up? He can just go back at any time. Whatever. I've completely gotten off track from what Chad has been saying. Again, I apologize. This stream has been kind of all over the place. And, like, it's been all over the place in the fact that, yeah, now we're just kind of dozing off a bit and I'm just losing people's interests. So after I read this chat, I'm just going to get back on the subject and probably call the stream. I have a tiny bit of a headache. I might call the stream around 11:15ish. This was a nice stream, by the way. Don't get me wrong. It's just, you know, it's just sort of losing momentum now, and I kind of like missed the whole point of what this stream is trying to be, and we never really got to talk about that. We talked about it a lot at the beginning, but we never really fully, you know, discussed that, which is why we never really talked about what the whole stream was titled at in the first place. But whatever. Man, I like The Simpsons up until season 13 because there was still some good stuff, but after that it went totally to shit. Yep. Eclipse is the perfect case of a trope called badass decay. At least I think that's what it's called. That, yeah, Eclipse. Again, after all that time, she just sort of became less and less of a badass, and they didn't humanize her, but they like. The stuff with Meteor was interesting, but it just became less that she was a badass and just more, you know, okay, so she's just this, like, wayward princess that lost her way, and it's sort of supposed to be an allegory for Star. Like, it was, the early seasons of Star were predictable, too. Even season 2 was predictable, but the execution was what made it work. But now you don't have that. And it's sort of repeating the same sort of themes that we already had in the earlier seasons. And yet they're supposed to go on in their 4th and 5th seasons, which I really don't see happening, especially because Disney usually has the whole 3 seasons and you're done rule. That's why they always circle out shows, even, you know, even though they had so much more stories to tell, that's one of the things I actually like about Disney. They have, like, okay, this is how much you're going to get. You need to prove that you can, like, be of a high enough quality to reach 4 seasons. Even Gravity Falls didn't make it past its 3rd season. That wasn't because Disney didn't want it to, you know, not do that. That was simply because Alex Hirsch didn't want to do anymore. They could have milked Gravity Falls for all it was worth, but Alex Hirsch knew when to quit. But anywho, Transformers is still closely tied to toy lines. The whole reason for the death of Optimus was to launch the new line, and the tradition continues. Oh, that's why. That was the whole... Okay. I was wondering about that. The Borg and the Voyager, they were badass, and they weren't anymore. Another example of badass decay. One of my favorites, lasted 10 seasons, Are You Being Served? And it probably should have ended after 8. They just kind of petered off and couldn't be taken elsewhere anymore. Optimus dying has gotten to the point where most fans go, okay, so how long is this going to take? I don't remember when French Prince of Bel-Air was. But I can still watch them. French Prince of Bel-Air is a show I need to watch. I really do need to watch more Fresh Prince. I've heard good things about it. I need to watch that. I need to watch that 70s show a bit more. Those are shows that, like, have the kind of humor that I really like. And then, I don't know. I'm speaking nonsense at this point. Thanks for letting us know your time zone. Greenwich Mean Time? That's not my time zone. Okay, that's like on a selection of my YouTube thing. I don't know how to, like, properly set it to my actual time zone. Although I might have set it. Alright, then yeah, you know the time zone that I'm in either way if I did... I don't know. Again, saying nonsense. So, Alice coming back, quick, kill it with fire. Oh yeah, American... Oh! I thought that said Al. Oh, I'm an idiot. Yeah, American Idol didn't need to come back either. That was a weird... That was like the weirdest announcement. I was like, who asked for American Idol of all things to come back? The only thing I remember about it was the logo. And Simon. And, like, some of, like, the meme guests that were on there. I don't remember a single thing else about that show. It's been back for a couple weeks. Yeah, that just... I didn't even know it was actually formally back as of a few weeks ago. That's how little I kind of cared about it. Yeah, especially when the voice is a thing. But anywho, speaking of content, now that we've had this, like, weird stream where it's just been all over the place, and now you kind of now that you kind of all have a, now that you kind of all have an idea of, like, my interests, I guess, for lack of a better term, the stuff I've watched, liked, knowledgeable about, just sort of my general personality, more so after the change the channel stuff. Now comes, like, the actual big question that I want to know definitively. What content do you all want to see from this channel going forward? Like, what do you really want me to do? Because I can keep making my own regular videos on my own content, but I want to just, like, I wanted to know, what would you guys want to stick around for? Do you want to see that, or do you want to see a specific type of content? It's fun. I'll see you next time. All right, bye, Henrik. Thank you for stopping by. More Homestuck, honestly. I mean, I could talk about Homestuck. There has been a lot of new news that came up as of late that I could cover, like the MS Paint Adventures website being completely redirected to a new Homestuck thing. By the way, again, sorry if you can hear background noise. Dorm people are loud. I liked it when you talked about media and video games. I get that a lot, but I don't know, like, what I could do for that. I gotta go to later. Yeah, sorry, the stream's running late. I didn't intend for it to run this late. I just sort of stream these and then just see where it goes from there. Just talk about stuff you like. Okay, alright. So, my initial idea for it was to be in, like, a review type format, because I was gonna start it off with, like, doing a Hi Puffy Yumi review, which was a show that, like, not a lot of people remember, and I wanted to talk about, like, the good aspects of it, and sort of how that led into, like, Sam Register, as a creator, wanting to do more with that, and how that sort of led into the entire Teen Titans Go thing. But A, I felt like that was piggybacking too much on Teen Titans Go. B, the change the channel stuff kind of turned around my plans a bit, and made me kind of rethink the format of the channel. C, the contest, or the podcast. Why did I say contests? The podcast idea was something I had banging around in my head, where that would be just me bouncing off with someone else about media and video games, but also for the review format style, not only would that be really heavily edited and take a long time, which wouldn't be fair to you guys because I want to get these out as much as possible, but I also don't want to take away from my actual college work. It just didn't sit right with me. It's not a review format. It had good aspects. Well, Hi Puffy Yumi had good aspects, like, in parts. It, like, the voice talent behind it was a fairly, noticeable voice cast. Like, it had... they were recognizable voices, for one, and they did their hardest for what they had. I mean, it was never going to be Ami or Yumi, because, they're Japanese, and it was not meant to be, like, a Japanese show. The original pilot had really good aspects to it as well, when it was, like, actually more hand-drawn, and looked like it had more passion and ideas put behind it. And then when it switched over to Flash, like most other shows, except Hi Puffy Yumi kind of started off like this. It kind of, a lot of the criticisms against the show are true, but like the designs, I don't actually think are awful. I think for what they were, they actually suited the show. Kind of, they suited it well. It was kind of a predecessor to the Teen Titans Go style, granted, and they don't look good in motion. But I think the actual designs for the characters stylistically work. I've heard of that show. Yeah, it's kind of a relatively obscure show from Cartoon Network's history that just sort of came and went because it was building off the popularity of Puffy Yumi as a band after they were known for the Teen Titans theme song. Really, I think that was all. That was all they were known for in like the U.S. That and they might have sung the theme song for another show. I can't remember. This is the first I've seen of your channel, so this has kind of set the tone for me. Best advice: your voice, your interests, your way. So, I mean, I could just do a whole series where I just like ramble and talk about different topics, but then again, like, wouldn't this like live stream sort of be that in a sense because it was just me rambling and bouncing off of topics with you guys? While we're discussing that, I just want to see the just kind of want to see updates on stuff. Also, again, don't worry about this like bland background thing. This is just a thumbnail. So what I was thinking for like this live stream thumbnail in particular was just going to be like a mashup of just sort of the main topics that we talked about just to give people an idea without like actually time stamping it. So like there might be like a Homestuck logo and 80s or 90s symbol that be recognizable and all that. Book reviews, live gaming streams. I have thought of doing live gaming streams actually, and I'm not going to do those on here. I'd probably do those on Twitch. The issue is I don't know how to get like the majority of my audience to on YouTube to know that because like I could say make a video and say, "Oh, I'm streaming on Twitch now," but that barely gets anyone over there. So, and I'd have to go under my like pseudo my alternate name, which would just be it's kind of like a really bad name, but I can't really change it at this point. Um I mean, I could I don't know. If you want to do a review style, film several in advance, then if you need time for other stuff, you have a buffer. I was thinking of doing that, but like that was what I planned to do, was do like the Hi Puffy Yumi review and then like have that as a backlog and then have that as a buffer. But the review style, when I tried it out in the Premiere, like and edited it all together and just I didn't edit the whole thing, but like when I just got a feel for it, I was like, this doesn't really work. I'm not like a reviewer type of person. That's kind of why I'm leaning towards video essays. This is also probably not the best stream to ask this on because you guys have all been like really nice, really great, really supportive and just talking about this. But like it's also I can't like deny that these have gotten like a smaller viewing from everyone in comparison to like the change the channel stuff. I should have said that like no, well then no, that would have come across as shilling in like the middle of the change the channel stream and like got in the way of everything else. But like I should have brought that up at the end of that when there were more people around so I could get like a better idea. I mean, I have a good idea now, and I thank you all for your feedback in this stream. You guys are the best, and I'm glad like you stuck around for this long. But yeah, I'm not gonna like lie to you. and say, like, well, not lie, but you know what I mean. I'd come back for another stream. Aside from that, the best content comes from being genuine. You don't have to always review, analyze, or critique things. Sometimes just sharing a passion is enough. That's what I'm thinking too. I'm more worried about like the format of it, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't want to do a review style. I don't want to create like an avatar persona for it. I could, but I like having to make all the vectors for it and putting in all that time and work when like it's going to just kind of distract from my overall thoughts on it and make it more sort of impersonal. Like it just feels like it loses that whole genuine touch to it. And I would like to talk about like video games and cartoons because those are like my real huge passions, and that's kind of also why I'm leading to the podcast thing. And I also really didn't have an idea of where to kind of go from here after changing the channel, because I had the podcast and maybe talking about those in a series, but nothing much else. Like there's nothing really inspiring me to make like another celebrate video where that was just made just for the lulz. Like it wasn't trying to cash in on like Smash Brothers. That was just me legitimately like making just a fun video that just came to my mind. Like I'm like, okay, I hear the song Celebrate. I see this thing. Everyone's so excited about Smash Brothers. You know what? I'm just gonna make a video and just compile it. Just have a fun time with it. I could review the reviewers, but I'll have to think about that. Because that also, like, well, the Channel Awesome thing was also a passion of mine, but, like, cartoons have been around since I was, like, really young. I didn't get into, like, Channel Awesome or really anything YouTube related until, like, 2010, 2011. But I won't lie, I might do that just so, like, to keep the Channel Awesome audience around, I guess, who came just for those videos, and to sort of, like, instigate channel growth. But I only do it when I want to, not because I need to. Have I checked out lazy game reviews? Seems like that style would fit you fairly well. I have not. Let me see. Okay, the desktop audio is muted. Let me just check out a brief second of their video. Lazy game. I know of them. Oh wait, have I seen one of their videos? Oh, that's true. I could become like a commentary channel in this sense. That could work. Wonder how the Renegades, Nate, Ben, and McCaw feel about this. About the Channel Awesome stuff, I'm sure they have, like, mixed feelings about it, like, from both sides. It's a weird situation. Oh, yeah, that's true. I could also... Okay, so I looked a little more at that. MST3K for cartoons. I'm not one to, like, riff on cartoons. I don't know how well that'd work. Yes, I actually have seen lazy game reviews for other stuff in there, but I could also do Let's Plays. I never really... I had given it some thought, but I don't know how well that would work for, like, what I kind of want the channel to be. I want it to be, like, creative endeavors just of my own whatever, just with a personal touch. And if one of them happens to get big, like the change the channel thing, so be it. But I don't want to ride that success out and milk it and do all that. That's also why this stream is in place to, prove that I wanted, well, not to prove anything. It was just more to, talk about this and show, like, I can, like, I want to make this work beyond just riding that fame from Change the Channel. I'll still discuss it on, like, Twitter, but I'm kind of getting sick of I'm not getting sick of talking about it. It's just gotten to the point where I'm like, this is just kind of, I get the idea of it, and just reading through it just makes me really upset, angry. It makes for good entertainment. Don't get me wrong, but and yeah, Pump Action Musket is right. Original content really doesn't catch fire on the site. That's why I changed the channel. I want to try and find something with Change the Channel where, like, because I could do Let's Plays. I want to do stuff like that. I might do stuff like that where I do Let's Plays of games, or like TF2 videos where I just talk about stuff or just commentate on the game. Because it's easy to produce. But like Change the Channel was special in that it was easy to produce, but it was also on a subject I was passionate about. I didn't need to sacrifice one over the other. It just happened to be that those two correlated at a perfect time and just, like, came together and worked. And I'm kind of fearing that was just lightning in a bottle. And that it's like, I just let the lightning out, open the bottle, let the lightning out, and it's not going to ever happen again. And that's what YouTube wants by issuing copyright strikes unironically for non-original content. I mean, the Celebrate video got hit with a copyright claim that's still being disputed by, like, UGM or WG, or UMG or WMG, who always, like, copyright hit the videos. And they hit it for, like, monetary compensation, even though I don't make a single cent on these videos. I mean, I didn't care, but yeah. Would reviewing or commentating be more appealing if someone else made the vectors for you? Oh, that's tough. I've considered that, but there's two things I'm kind of, like, on the fence about with that. Right now, the first thing is that I can't commission people. I don't have money to do that, and the money that I do have now is, like, money I need to, help me in college and all of that, with all of my other stuff outside of YouTube, because I do have a life outside of YouTube, one that I won't be public about right here, but, it's there. It happens. Like, I'm kind of shocked you all found me in the first place. It kind of caught me by surprise. And I really don't have a plan to go for that. I'm old. What are vectors? Okay, so vectors are basically just, like, the character or person. Okay, have you seen Egoraptor sequelitis? It's the person that Egoraptor, it's the person, like, that whole avatar that they use. And the second thing, too, is that I could get someone to do it, but my style, at least as it is now, it might not show it on, like, my online stuff, but for everything else, my style is kind of, like, very, I've heard it compared to, like, it's very Chuck Jonesy in the way that it looks and how it moves and how it, like, how the facial expressions work. And I don't know if someone could, like, properly recapture that. I've seen, like, really popular YouTubers or that get really close to that, like, close to what I'm kind of looking for, and how it, like, bounces and moves around and how it, like, stretches, and kind of close to that and animation wise, but it's just, it can't, like, get it, like, right down pat. If they could, and if I could trust someone with that, I definitely would. Right now, I'm not at a stage where I could consider that, nor would I probably, want that. Digital sock puppets, essentially. Or any pony review. Yeah, if you look up any MLP reviewer, they use vectors. Those things for the show. I'm gonna clock out for the night. Gotta work in the morning. Good night, all. Yeah, I'm gonna call the stream in like 4 minutes anyway. I did say I was gonna call it. Then. If you want to do Let's Plays, do what NerdCube does, or do what NerdCube used to do and just have fun with it. His just cause 3 playthrough comes to mind. Once it starts feeling like a chore, then it's time to stop. Yeah, that's probably why I'm... Well, the other thing, too, is that I want to make it, but I don't want it to feel, like, oversaturated in there. Because I can make, like, a TF2 commentary vid, but I don't know if... I don't know if my personality could carry that whole thing. Like, if you know TF2 YouTubers, there's, like, German, 985, and Star, or Soundsmith, or any of those could. But... like, I could try and do it, but it would just get lost in, like, a sea of those other YouTubers that already probably have a better personality than mine, and 2, like, they fall into the trap of just being known for TF2. I don't want to be known just for one thing. I want to just do the channel like it is now, but doing it that way hasn't really been conducive to channel growth, if that makes sense. So... You've given me a lot of ideas to think about, and I'll definitely think about it, like, over probably tonight. I might do a stream tomorrow. Who knows? Just being more like a casual stream where there's actually stuff going on the screen, and we just, you know, talk, maybe play a game. I have a Steam backlog that I could probably go through. And, you know, we'll see what happens. I'm heading out to Night All. Night Mid-Atlantic. Yeah, alright, I'm gonna call the stream here since, like, there's only 10 people watching right now, and I think I've gotten some good feedback. We definitely had a lot of fun. There might be more change to the channel stuff on the way. For those of you curious, for those of you who are actually here for that, that depends. That's probably gonna be it after that, like, next live stream or video or whatever I decide to do for that. I don't know if there'll be any more live streams. If there are, maybe look on Twitch under the Extreme Gamer Man 10 Twitch page thing, which I might link in the description of the next video. Don't know. But that's it. Nice just talking sometimes. This has been a fun stream. Thank you for coming, Jennasmith, and thank you for coming, Cult Escapee 87. He says it's been fun chatting. Keep up the good work, and thanks for the advice. No problem, dude. I'm glad you took my ramblings as some sort of advice to heart. Anywho. Yep. It's 11:07. I need to fix my sleep schedule. Yep. I'm gonna call it here. Everyone, have a fantastic weekend. Yep, Jennasmith. I hope you have a good weekend. And until next time, guys, I will see you all quite literally for whatever I plan next. Take care, everyone. And I'll see you all in the next video, stream, or whatever. Bye.